Time now for the first part of today's Nature Watch. I was joined in the studio earlier this week by James. James is a member of Suffolk Wildlife Trust's Youth Board. He is just 13 years old and can find things challenging with too many transitions or too much sensory input. Now, when I think about it, our studio frightened the life out of me when I saw it for the first time. But after 65 hours of practice, I thought, OK, I'll give it a go. James had 15 minutes to get used to it in the studio, and I have a great deal of admiration for this young man, and I hope you'll enjoy the first part of this morning's Nature Watch. Regular listeners will know that I champion Suffolk Wildlife Trust, which is the only organisation dedicated wholly to safeguarding Suffolk's wildlife and countryside. And I've often spoken about the importance of introducing young people to the natural world, encouraging them to enjoy and care for everything that it is, to help make sure that wildlife is protected for years to come. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Lucy and Claire from Suffolk Wildlife Trust and James. James is 13 years old and he is a member of Suffolk Wildlife Trust's Youth Board. Which gives a voice to young people's thoughts, knowledge and opinions and empowers them to take action for nature, get involved with decision making and campaign for environmental issues. Isn't that a great thing? So welcome everybody to Hospital Radio Ipswich. James, I'm very pleased to meet you.
Yeah, me too.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
James, I read something that you'd written on the Suffolk Wildlife Trust website and I liked it. What you said was, every time I'm able to go in nature, I feel more inclined to protect it. It gives me joy. And it made me happy when I read that. But you've taken it a step further. You are a member of the Suffolk Wildlife Trust Youth Board. So how did you start your work with wanting to protect wildlife and now finding yourself a member of the board?
I heard of Youth Board from school, and lucky that I heard it from the notices. There was lucky 2 notices at school because I forgot the I heard it the first time, but I kind of forgot about it the second time. But luckily, I wrote it down because I was kind of really interested to sort of start work with Suffolk Wildlife Trust, and yeah, I've sort of I started seeing nature on my walk to school. I started. From there, I started thinking, like, how can I be more involved with this? And I really love sort of what the trust does. So it was really great that I got to hear a bit from school, because I would say schools are a very good place to sort of like target things for young people, like about nature, like sort of put those things out, and it proves my point because I did found and you
enjoy being a member of the youth board.
Yeah, it's been really good. Being part of the youth board.
And what sorts of things have you done since you've joined? What sorts of things have you taken part with for the trust? Yeah,
so since you joined, we've done stuff like we've influenced sort of higher decisions in sectors of the Wildlife Trust, we did some work in the EDI sector of the Wildlife Trust in November. It was really good to sort of get our thoughts across as young people to that. We've done some work with the Next Door Nature celebration, because Next Door Nature is a very good project by the Suffolk Wildlife Trust. We did some work at the Hive in Ipswich for a celebration of that project, and that was really cool. We've done a lot of sort of influencing decisions, and so it's also been great to sort of just talk to other young people in Suffolk who are interested in nature.
It must be very different from school, because I always thought at school teachers didn't really listen to my opinions, but Suffolk Wildlife Trust listens to what you think, don't they?
Yeah.
I think that's lovely. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Hive, I read about the Hive, and it's a great idea. It's a grassroots-based organisation which has developed a multifunctional creative space in the heart of Ipswich with a leading focus on supporting the community in and around Norwich Road. And I think that there's an area at the back of the Hive, isn't there, that was transformed into a haven for wildlife, but for a welcoming space for people as well. And you were there last summer.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was really great being at the Hive, because as I wrote in my blog about it, it's sort of what makes a community space is somewhere that has the community for nature and a community for people, because that's what we all are. We're all part of nature. We all coexist, and it's really great. There was that space. We did some we did some sort of stuff there, like we weaved some sort of like willow crowns. That was really cool. I read some of my poetry, and my fellow youth board member Henry did. Henry has some brilliant poems. It was.
I've read
really
one
great.
of Henry's poems on my show earlier this year. He wrote one about a tree that stood there since about 1600. Beautiful poem, and it ends with when a man with a clipboard turns up and puts a cross on it and said, "No, this one's got to go."
Walked away.
Yeah, it's a really powerful poem. I love hearing young people's views on nature, because it was simple, but boy, it brought tears to my eyes when I read it on the air. Lovely poem. And you like to write, because you actually read some of your poetry out the Hive as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I shared some of my my poetry. I've got a few poems here.
You're going to be reading some for us later today.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. And you just said something there. I had a guest on the show earlier this year, Megan McCubbin from BBC Springwatch, and she said something to me which was very obvious, but I'd never thought it before, and you just said it, that we are part of nature. We're not separate from it, are we, as humans? We're part of it, so why wouldn't we feel a love for it? And that's what you said.
We're all part of the cycle of being in nature. We just... Yeah.
Yeah, it was just something that had never really occurred to me before. Have you had any memorable wildlife encounters? I mentioned to you just before we came on air, I went out into the garden the other day and there was a newt there that just took me by surprise. Because any sort of encounters with wildlife that you can remember where you just thought, wow.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what I said about sort of my walking to school and seeing nature, this was sort of the wildlife encounter I had that sort of inspired me to sort of work, to sort of do more to get and protect nature and get more involved in this stuff. And that was it was a very cold February morning, mid-February morning in 2023, last year, where I had like for some reason I had like this I was hearing a lot of the bird songs of spring coming up around me, and I sort of didn't have as much connections. I was kind of getting sort of too social, you know what I mean. In year 7, I sort of took away some of my connections just to make sure, I was myself. And then like on my walk to school, I started becoming more aware of what's around me, and I got this bird sound identification app on my phone. And it was really cool. On the way home of that morning, I saw there was two birds. They were sparrows. I didn't know what they were. They were in the bush. And then I thought they were really cool. I used my bird call identification app, and then and I found out they were sparrows, and that was really cool, because I was thinking like I was just treating like these rare parrots like in this bush and like at the very edge of someone's garden, and then just like they're sparrows. Oh my god, they're really cool sparrows. And that sort of, I don't know how rare they were, but still any connection with nature, any sort of moment in nature is still value, whether like how rare they are. And really, some of them shouldn't be that rare, but it was really great, and that sort of inspired me to sort of continue like looking at birds and then thinking like, oh, what can I do to protect these incredible species that bring me joy?
That's lovely.
In that sense.
I tell you, the lovely thing about that as well is they were sparrows. They were nothing. They're not fancy. I mean,
No.
my wife and I go for lots of walks, and we always hope to find something exciting. But one of the loveliest things that we've encountered with nature over the last year or so is we have encouraged a colony of house sparrows into our garden. And sometimes I go out in the morning and there's 20 house sparrows squawking away and making that wonderful noise that they do. And you spoke about dunnocks as well before we came on air, and they are very underestimated in terms of having the most beautiful bird song. Yeah. Do you use your app a lot?
Well, my bird call identification app was just sort of I just wanted to use it then, as there was lots of birds around me. Now I know a lot more about birds than I did then, but and I could probably identify their calls quite well from that. But it was great, and I guess from then I started writing about sort of the nature I see around me on my walks to school. Because I mean, you were saying about about you try to go on walks sort of regularly to see wildlife. Yeah, I think having my walks to school is really great, because there often isn't enough time any other time to sort of go on walks specifically for nature. It's great is to have a space where I can then sort of connect and see what's around me.
And we're coming to a lovely time of the year for bird calls. It's my wedding anniversary on the 20th of April, and every year my wife and I go to Bridgewood near the River Orwell because we know there are going to be nightingales there. Have you ever heard nightingales sing?
Oh, I've heard a nightjar.
Have you?
Wow. With Suffolk Life Trust, but not.
Wow, that's
not
special.
A nightingale.
It's a remarkable sound. For a minute, within a week or so, listen out for them. It's a wonderful sound. And funnily enough, were you not on the show this week, I was actually going to play some bird calls of a blackcap and a nightingale and let the listener hear them in case they didn't know what they were. So that's perfect that we're having this conversation now. They're wonderful things. Tell you what. How about if we play a little bit of music and we'll come back and we'll have another chat, James? But do you want to read one of your poems to us? You spoke about you writing your poems. Read one of your poems to us.
Yeah, I'd love to read the Dunnock. I did not write a poem about the two sparrows that I saw on that beautiful day, but I did sort of carry on noticing what was around me. I did write a poem about a Dunnock I saw in a bush on the side of the road.
Off you go.
So yeah, I'd love to read this. This is the Dunnock. There's a Dunnock that I hear, then see. There's a Dunnock in the closest tree. I identify the sweet melodic tune, every bird different and in morning commune. And then I see it, its beautiful knitted brown wings, and how it hops from branch to branch with ease. Yet nobody knows, and nobody sees. The urbanous area, and from many gateways of bushes and trees, nature still thrives, and nature foresees. And the people who walk past have their own to speak to, about the chatter that flies on the breeze, but they would never know, only me, that there was a Dunnock in the closest tree. Thank you.
That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. A simple little Dunnock, and if you're listening now and you've never heard a Dunnock sing, just Google a Dunnock singing because it's one of the happiest sounds you'll hear. James, that was lovely. We'll play a little bit of music and we'll chat later in the show, okay?
Yeah,
thanks. Time now for the second part of today's Nature Watch from a conversation I had earlier in the week with 13-year-old James from Suffolk Wildlife Trust's Youth Board. Let's welcome James back into the studio. We spoke to him earlier on in the show. James is, and this is a very grand title when you're 13 years of age, he's a member of the Suffolk Wildlife Trust's Youth Board, which gives a voice to young people in terms of nature, and I think that's a wonderful thing. James, we've been chatting off air. I'm very conscious that there's an awful lot going on for young people these days. There's the pressure of school, there's social media, everything seems to me to go at 100 miles an hour. I'm lucky I'm retired, so that's all behind me. But how do you feel when you're in nature compared to, you know, the regular things that young people are involved in with school and social media and all that? How does it make you feel?
Nature makes you feel, and it helps to sort of, nature makes you feel. I mean, it makes you feel really happy. I feel a lot of joy when I'm in nature because I can sort of see, particularly on my walks to school, I can see what's around me. It makes you feel really. It sort of helps with overwhelm. If I'm feeling sort of really overwhelmed that day, I can sort of go out, I can sort of see the trees, see like the birds, and sort of it's really nice sort of talk to talk to the birds. You know what I mean? I sort of pigeon calls. I sort of talk back. It's really great to
Nothing wrong with that. I was working in my daughter's garden recently, and as soon as I started digging, a blackbird and a robin came down. And I was talking to the robin. Hey, Robbie!
Hello, Robin.
Come and join me. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's great to have that connection. The sort of have nature as like a thing you have, and as part of you. And I feel really sort of content and really It's just really sort of, it's a great connection to have.
My wife and I are passionate about nature, and I find that there are two times when I truly relax, and those two times are when my wife and I are out walking in the countryside, or when I'm gardening. And when I'm doing that, I'm conscious of nothing else other than what is going on around me. And there's a kind of an inner peace to that, isn't there?
Yeah, you can sort of switch off with like sort of the world and connect with the world around you, because that's sort of how who you are in a sense. It is sort of the base layer of nature is the base layer of who we are as humans.
Yeah, you'd love walking
Brilliant.
with my wife because she is an extraordinary wildlife spotter. I just hang on to her coattails, and she said, "Oh, look at that! Oh, look at that! Oh, look at that!" She's really, really good. You read one of your poems earlier. That was absolutely gorgeous. I enjoyed that enormously, and I hope you'll read another one before you go. Do you write as you're walking, or when you finished your walk?
No, I write as I walk. So yeah, I mean, it's most useful in time as I write on the walk, and I feel like I can. I tend to process nature as I go along. Though recently I have been sort of doing some writing after I do my walks, but on my walks to school, because I'm coming to and from school, it's easiest to sort of write in that moment. And I write on Google Keep Notes on my phone. So that's sort of where you scroll. There's masses of Keep Notes, all the different sort of small things I've written to just give me an inspiration. That I've had inspiration from, like, the world around me to write, and it's really great to sort of use a phone to write on the move, because I often people think I'm quite weird. I'm just on my phone when I walk to school, but I'm not on media. I'm writing nature poetry most likely, and it's sort of great to, like, as I go through, like, sort of this suburban area, it's really great to sort of write like poems, like, between the sort of connection of sort of human structures and then, like, nature, and sort of maybe some things that are going on.
I completely get that. Years and years and years ago, I went to Caldecott on the England-Wales border, and while I was there, I saw a real murmuration of starlings. There were thousands and thousands of these birds, and sadly my wife wasn't there at the time because I was there on business, and I had a train journey home that was probably about 6 hours. So on the train I sat down and I wrote every single thing I could remember about that murmuration, and I'm so pleased I did, because now I might have forgotten it, but when I read it back and I remember what I saw, it was really special. So I get that. I get that entirely.
Processing in the moment, sort of helps you sort of know where you are, get your bearings, sort of, process it all. Yeah. Something
that we hear a lot about these days, and I think your generation is the first that has probably experienced it and is actually doing something about it, is eco-anxiety. It's for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, I would describe it as worrying about the impact of the global climate change to the point of actually feeling fear over the health of the planet itself. And young people are very concerned about eco-anxiety. Is it something that you worry about? And being in nature, and particularly being involved with the youth board, must make you feel a bit better, and that you're doing something about it.
Yeah, it's great. Eco-anxiety can affect a lot of people. I guess it can affect from feeling worried about the planet to sort of feeling like, am I doing enough? I think that's coming across a lot of people, and doing things like youth board has sort of helped to will help me feel a lot more joy and sort of and getting in nature, and having and then I feel like I'm doing okay. And sometimes it can still feel quite. So sometimes if you get sort of more involved, you can sort of feel like, am I still doing enough if I'm getting more involved? Should I be doing like even more? But generally, just it's great to sort of have just do what you love and what you have, and it's great that you're doing anything to environment at all.
Yeah, it is.
That's probably was the question.
We all have a finite amount of time, and I think the important thing is if all of us do a little, then collectively we're doing a lot. Mm-hmm. And I love that you're doing things with the Wildlife Trust. We became a member last year, and I think I read on the website that one of your poems was inspired by a walk at Broome Heath. And of course, just the other side of the River Deben is the Martlesham Wilds Reserve, which I believe you haven't been to, but you're going to tomorrow.
I have been to it before. Once with there was this one trip with school we went to that was really a nice opportunity, like after school. With Charlie Zacks, who works at Suffolk.
Yeah, I've met Charlie's been a guest here, but she's sat in the seat that you're in now.
Charlie's very cool. Does some very cool
she
things.
Is cool.
Yeah, she's like engagement officer for Marsh and Wiles. And yeah, that was a really cool walk. Sort of go around and see what was there. Some really really nice scenery. But I am going there tomorrow because there's like this like dropping question like time event thing. So that's. So I'm happy to go tomorrow, sort of have another look around. I think that's sort of asking questions about it and doing a litter pick. So
fabulous.
Yeah,
I hope it's not quite so blowy as it is today.
Yeah,
because
so windy today.
It's quite open out there, but it's a fabulous place.
Yeah.
Last time we were there, we talking about bird songs, we saw a flock of linnets. There must have been 150 of them, and they chatter a little bit like goldfinches, but they chatter, and it was the loveliest sound. You'll have to listen out for them. And you're a bit of a photographer as well. I suppose you've always got your camera on your phone, haven't you?
Yeah. 1 second.
And you know what? I meant to ask everybody to turn their phones on silent at the start of this, and I forgot. There you go.
Yeah, I random alarms about.
Yeah, so photography. You like to take some pics.
I am a bit of a keen photographer. I have a camera, which is a great privilege to have that camera. And I really enjoy taking photos. The sort of photos around where I live that are sort of encompass some of sort of like, as I've said earlier, sort of human sort of structures and nature structure together. I really like that sort of composition of sort of like of daisies and then next to like the side of the road, which is, I guess, I think I do talk a bit about that in my poem I'm going to share later, which is Concrete, about sort of the gap of like the flowers coming in between the pavement and the road that sort of show nature can be within our human structures. It's
a powerful contrast, isn't it?
Yeah,
the nature and the buildings next to one another. There's a song that I often play on this show by Joni Mitchell, Big Yellow Taxi, and there's a line in it, I think something about pull up the trees and put them in a tree museum, and then you charge the people $1.50 just to see them. It's so important that we preserve as much of the wildlife as we can. What about the future then? You got any plans coming up for conservation work?
So I'm part of this. I'm part of this group, formerly known as Young Voice for Nature. I know Young Voice for Nature was like a project that we did back last year. That was set up by Save Our Wild Isles, which is set up by WWF, RSVB, and National Trust in like as a campaign after the famous Wild Isles documentaries that came out with David Attenborough, and they had sort of a youth branch, which was Young Voice for Nature, where we sort of then worked together online to create a film called Our Beautiful Wild. It's on YouTube, you can watch that. But yeah, we have the sort of a group coming off the back of that that I'm part of, and we're sort of working secretly on a podcast at the moment. Sort of people who wanted to stay connected after the project have sort of got a chat where we're sort of working on a podcast which we've now decided to call Generation Nature. So that may be coming up later in the year, and we're currently getting funding for it. So
well, let us know when it is, because it's something we'd like to follow here.
Yeah.
James, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you for finding the time to come in. It's been a delight to meet you. I have a regular piece on my show each week, which is called Nature Watch, and I often say that the young people of today are the future guardians of our wildlife. So a big thank you to you and all of your colleagues on the youth board who give up their own time to make a difference, and you do make a difference, and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And my eco-anxiety is certainly kept in check knowing that good people like you care about looking after our planet.
Thank you. Certainly helped to do more work with youth board campaigning too, because there's a lot to come up with that. It's great to do things locally, it's really great to try and find.
And that's what the Suffolk Wildlife Trust is all
local
about.
Young people.
Shall we? To finish, would you like to read us another poem? I'm sure the listeners would love to hear one.
I would love to read my poem Concrete. I think I talked about it a bit earlier, which is it's sort of talks about that sort of line between the pavement and the road of where flowers sort of grow.
Off you go.
This is Concrete. I often see the grasses shoot through the gap between the heightened pavement and the road, evidence of budding soil beneath, punched under by crashing strength. I look at all the little stones bathing in the concrete, some high enough on the surface to kick and fly off into the distance, landing still. And I wonder, when was this mass built? By who? And what will happen to it in future years? And where is the hills and grass aside that stop underneath the heavy blue? Thank you.
Watch out for this young man. James from the Suffolk Wildlife Trust Youth Board, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, remarkable young man. Thanks for joining us, James. If you, by the way, haven't visited Martlesham Wilds yet, the new Suffolk Wildlife Trust Reserve on the banks of the Deben, do go take a visit. It's absolutely glorious. As James said, the scenery is wonderful. You'll spot all sorts of wildlife while you're there. And if you're a Suffolk resident, hopefully you can go and take a look. If you go to Martlesham Church, there's a car park just the other side of the road, and the walk is clearly marked from there, so give it a go. I asked James if he would choose a song, and as is often the case when we have requests on HRI, presenters discover music they've not heard before. Such is the case here. This is The Fat Rat and Monody.